list builders. Thank you so much for joining me for another chapter of the List Building Lifestyle Book Club. My name is Lana White, and we will be covering a very special book today. We all know that there are a lot of books out there, and let's be honest with that, we don't have the time to read all of them. So we will not only be covering the most essential books for your business's growth, but we will also cover all the actionable steps, and we will quote unquote read the book for you. So you know all the key concepts, and you can just go ahead and follow all the steps that we outline. And so with that said, the book that we will be covering today is a personal favorite, and that is the 80-20 Sales and Marketing by Perry Marshall, the definitive guide to working less and making more. I'm personally a huge fan of this book because it is, again, we are all busy. We do live in a very busy world, and it is a book that is a lifesaver when it comes to shortening your hours, shortening your expenses, shortening all the resources and the energy that you put in to only get more in the process. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that? And so I'm very excited to hear what Igor has in store to share about this book. And so Igor, what is your story with this book? When did you pick it up first? How did it happen? Who did you hear about it from?
Well, the first time I picked it up was way before I was making money online. I was still very much into, personal development. I was trying to figure out the secrets behind successful people who have successful lives. And one of the things I came across was the Pareto Principle. And the Pareto Principle lies at the core of the book. It basically states this: 80% of the results you'll ever get will come from 20% of the effort that you put in. And this is true for everything in life, pretty much. 80% of traffic in your town goes through 20% of the roads. 80% of money made, in a business comes from 20% of its customers. Pretty much, if you measure any success or anything, you will always find the 80-20 principle in it, in life, everywhere. Now, I came across the book when I still had no idea how to apply it, but the principle was fascinating because it gave me hope that life isn't this abstract big thing that's impossible to systematize and figure out, because I'm a very systems-oriented person. I was brought up to be a junior engineer in electronics, and when you are going through education that way, you're being very analytical, you're seeking predictability, and I've always seeked predictability my entire life. I've hated unpredictability, and the Pareto Principle offers that. For me personally, that's my perspective on it. I don't know how about you, Lana, but for me, the Pareto Principle gave me hope that even though life kind of happens to most people, I could make it, I could control it in some way by knowing what to expect.
That makes a lot of sense. And I did hear about this principle before. I believe that it's a nature kind of thing where money distribution is not even either, right? So if we look at most things in the world, like mates, for example, they're not evenly distributed, with a very small percentage of people, or like you said, our effort, getting most of the results. And before we dive into the main principles of the book and how to apply it in your business, can you please share who would you recommend this book to? Who do you
I
think
recommend
will
this book
benefit
to
most?
anyone. I'm sorry?
I'm just asking, who do you think will benefit most out of it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just doing this out of my bedroom upstairs because, downstairs I couldn't work anymore during the quarantine and stuff like that. So sometimes my kids, my son, actually you gave it to
Are
him.
being
So
kids.
he's got this big car where he's the only one who fits in it, but the wheels are plastic. So it goes on the hardwood floor and the noise is crazy. So what was the question again?
Yes, I was asking, before we dive into the core principles of the book, can you please share who would you recommend this book to? Who do you think will benefit most out of it?
I honestly want to recommend this book to everyone. If you're interested in becoming more efficient with your time and your effort, and if you seek to gain the most out of minimum time and minimum investments, whether energy investments or financial investments, then I highly recommend this book because it tells you exactly where to focus to get the most out of everything in life. There's a great saying: small hinges swing big doors. I think the Pareto Principle, the 80-20 rule, is a very, very good example of how that works. So you mentioned money distribution in the world. That's a great example of the Pareto Principle, because the thing about 80-20 rule, and let's just refer to the 80-20 rule from now on, the 80-20 rule is no exception to the 80-20 rule, which means you can apply the 80-20 rule to the 80-20 rule infinite number of times. So let's imagine, even though that's not true technically, but let's imagine there's only so much money in the world. And let's say there is only $100 million in the world. Now, chances are, if we apply the Pareto Principle, we'll see that the distribution between people versus how much money they have will be so that 20% of people worldwide will have in their hands 80% of the money. But then if we look even more closely to that, we apply the 80-20 rule to the 20% that have 80% of the money, you'll see that 4% of people have 96% of the money, which is, if you start investigating the global economy, you'll see that there's about 4% of people worldwide who own all the corporations, so, and all the resources.
Most of the athletes own all the success, or most of the Hollywood actors, own all the money in there. So it is something. Before we move into the book itself, I do want to highlight and repeat what Igor said. It is a book that is suitable for beginners as well. So if you don't necessarily have this huge corporation, don't skip this video and don't give up on this book, because it is something that you can benefit from. We all have the time and we all choose how to distribute it. So you might as well do it wisely. And so, Igor, just to dive into the actionable steps, and without discussing the book itself, you mentioned that you read this book and you were attracted to the concept, but you weren't able to implement it at first. So when is it that you first noticed this rule working in your business?
In my business, it was very clear. Not just in my business, but in general in the online marketing industry, because I was always a big fan of online marketing. For those of you guys who don't know how I got in through the dating niche. I was a prospect, a customer in the dating game, where other guys teach other guys how to approach women in case, you were brought up being socially incapable of speaking to women, which I was. I had no idea what to say to women. I had no idea how to even be in the same room with them. And I really wanted to learn. And I figured if anyone has a system or a book or a course or a seminar, I'll just go get it. And I became a very avid follower of people like David D'Angelo, the Mystery Method, Neil Strauss, etc. And so through that industry, I've discovered that you could actually build a business around affiliate marketing, promoting information products, books, courses, software products, and do it all without leaving your home. And after being in that industry for a little while, I noticed the Pareto Principle. The Pareto Principle was very, very obvious. It still is. And like I said, no one is immune to it, and it's universal. It will never go away. Most people in the make money online industry, people who are trying to make money from home, fail. And about 4% out of all the people who are out there online, building websites, promoting products, only 4% of people make about 92, 96% of the money. In fact, I even know one guy who built a whole program around that called the 4%. His name is Vic Stryzius. I'm not sure if that program is still available, but he went on for a couple of years building a whole brand around this exact concept, saying that, look, if you want to be a part of the 4%, you have to work with us, which I think is a pretty good sales angle. Again, I don't know if that program is still available, and I am neither recommending it right now, nor am I condemning it. I've never used it. I'm just saying it's out there and everyone knows about it, besides the people who are, of course, just getting started, who are unaware of the Pareto Principle. But yeah, so that's one. Another example of it was my list. I noticed that about 4% of the people on my list were buying or were responsible for most of the revenue I was making. About 20% of people on my list were responsible for about 80%. But if I applied the 80-20 rule to those people, you'd see that about 4% of the people on my list were actually avid customers, repeat customers, or the way Lana loves to call them, the steroid buyers, who were responsible for bringing in, big revenue for us. And the way we knew what to do or the way we knew how to find them was by using the Pareto Principle. And then we just started treating them differently, giving them more attention, better care, sending them gifts and postcards, etc. So it was very, very clear.
We started treating them differently. And another cool thing that we were able to do is we were able to research them and their background and their kind of individual traits to understand where can we find other people who are like that. So that was a very interesting milestone for us. So you mentioned that you found this in your list, that it worked in your list, and essentially in any other area of the business that you stumbled into. Do you see this principle working in other areas like traffic perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of the traffic you will ever get, whether free or paid, will not convert. Only a certain portion of it will convert. If you run a test and you've got 10 different traffic sources, you can pretty much bet on the fact that 2 of these traffic sources will be of any use to you, and maybe 1 of them will be really hitting home. If you ever ran product launches, so if you ever had affiliates mail for you, another thing you may notice is that only about 4% of your affiliates will be making you sales that are worthy of talking about. I remember Jeff Walker, the guy who is an expert, the go-to authority on product launches. He said that every launch that he'd done, he had, out of the large pool of affiliates, he only had about 20% of affiliates make any sales whatsoever, and only 4% who would be responsible for over 85% of the sales for the entire launch, which is crazy. This principle is so universal that if you take a room, let's imagine we have a coaching program for billionaires. Okay, that's how insane it is. So let's say we are teaching billionaires how to multiply their billions, and we've got this coaching group of 10. What you can pretty much bet on is that 8 of them will be mediocre, 2 of them will be getting results, and only 1 of them will be really good. Why? Because of the Pareto Principle. It's always like that. Any group, any number usually is subject to the rule.
It makes me feel so much better on one hand, because whenever I look at 10 different traffic sources and see only little of them work, or when I see a huge list and I see only a small percentage of it really open the emails and create all the sales, it does make me feel better on one hand, because I understand why the rest don't work, because I understand there's no such thing as having everything work in the same exact way. But on the other hand, it does make me feel like, hey, I'm wasting a lot of time and energy on all of those other traffic sources or all of those other subscribers. So what would you recommend when it comes to focusing on that? How much would you recommend to really cut off all of the other unnecessary traffic sources or subscribers without, again, shooting yourself in the foot?
Yeah, so you have to really balance it out. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to find that one thing, I'm going to move away from everything else. Although for the longest time, I used to do that until that one thing stops working, then you go out looking anyway. So what I recommend is just giving more attention to what works while leaving some of your attention and resources to try new things. Because you never know when's that next big thing you're going to find is going to work. But again, Pareto Principle will be there. You will always find it. And one of the things that you have to continuously do is you have to continuously stay in motion. So it's not like it's a set in stone thing for the rest of your life, where if you test 10 traffic sources this month and you find the one that works, it's not like you just stop looking and you assume that for the rest of your life that's the one that's going to work. That's not the case. What's going to happen is you're going to continue testing, but out of all your tests, you're always going to be narrowing things down to that 4% or 20% that get your results. So you still have to be in motion, but you expect results accordingly to the principle.
Hey List Builder, when you're done going through this training, hop over to igor.cx for a free web class on getting more targeted traffic. You will discover a new traffic source Igor used to build an email list of 1,339,261 email subscribers at a profit. It's only available for a limited time, so don't sit on your hands. Attend now to get a free $497 value case study, breaking down a 7-day email campaign that brought in $98,000 in commissions. It's all yours for free at igor.cx. And now, back to the training.
That is very helpful to know, because many people who are fanatics like me perhaps would read this book and would say, that's it, I'm cutting off everything else. So, that's not very wise to do either. And I guess that we just have to come to terms with the fact that not everything will produce, but it is useful to identify what is this 20% for you in whatever area, and then focus on that.
There's something to say about that, actually. I don't want to sound as if there are no things in life that will be predictably effective according to the principles. So once you've started living your life and you went through some motions, you've tried things out. Let's take relationships, for example. If you've been in a few relationships, you may have discovered the Pareto Principle at work there, because you may have noticed that 20% of the effort you're taking will create the most impact for the relationship. For example, expressing gratitude to your partner on a consistent, ongoing basis may create more positive impact than trying to do something else that may improve the relationship in some way or another. Maybe, like taking joint vacations or something like that. So you can find that one or two things that will be most effective, and you can stick to those things. Just like the reason, for example, why I chose to build my business originally around list building and email marketing is because email marketing was the 80-20 rule. Anywhere I would go, anyone who was making decent money, even if they sold products about something else completely, they would still actually make their money with their email list. So that was an obvious 80-20 that you could question, but you could never get enough proof to actually disvalidate. You always came back to the same conclusion that a list is what made them rich and kept them rich over time. So that 80-20 rule did not change to this day, even though media's changed, platforms changed, traffic costs went up. In fact, they probably quadrupled in the last 2 years alone. List building and email marketing is still the 4% of effort that brings you 96% of the money. It's like that. It just doesn't change at all. So again, I don't want to sound like you can't find predictable actions that get you predictable results. In fact, the Pareto Principle is all about that. I'm just saying that you have to be continuously aware of the principle, but also to leave enough resources to go and try things out. Because over the last few years, we did find new ways to build a list, for example, right? We started out this way, then we moved to this method, then we moved to that method. So the method behind list building may have changed, but the 80-20 of list building itself did not. I think I confused our listeners more than I've helped them just now.
No, it was actually very comprehensive with how you couldn't ignore list building because it was everywhere. And even though you can do it in different ways, you should still just stick to your list and go ahead and build it. There was something else that I would actually love for you to elaborate on for us. I don't know if you remember it visually, but there's this triangle in the book with TCE, right? The traffic, the conversion, and the economics. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on the essentially how targeted traffic is converted, and then, yeah.
So I did not like the triangle explanation, to be honest with you, because it reminded me of math and physics classes, which I didn't really like. I mean, I was good at math, but I never really enjoyed it as a subject. And I also never enjoyed physics. I think most of us
didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I guess. So when he shows this triangle, I was like, it reminded me of the triangle of time, speed, distance, mass, stuff like that. The best way I've heard this described really well is from Dan Kennedy, actually. He spoke about message, market, media. So the 3 M's, right? So the message is what you say on your website. The market is, the market is the audience to whom you advertise. And the media is a way you advertise to the audience. So a message could be how to work from home. A message could be how to start an Amazon dropshipping store. A message could be how to build a list. The message could be how to meet your perfect life partner. The message could be how to have the most amazing sex of your life, even in your 70s. And no. So the message is whatever you're selling. The market are the people. So are we going after stay-at-home moms? Are we going after males over 40 with erectile dysfunction? Are we going after dog owners? Are we going after people wanting to invest in stock market but have been burned by Enron or something like that? And that's your market. And then you've got the media. Now you can be hitting the same market with the same message through different media. Example, I could be putting out ads about how to build an email list through solo ads, through YouTube ads, through Twitter ads, through Facebook ads, through TV, direct mail, radio advertisements, etc. But for me to create a profitable business, I really have to find a perfect match between my message, my market, and my media. Because the best prospects will be coming through a certain media. And so for me, the media is email, right? And that's the 80-20. Like that's almost like the cornerstone of everything we do. It's email, it's getting them on the list. That's the media. And then once we have the media, we start, testing different messages, because the market we also kind of figured out by now. So the triangle he shares, whether you like the way he explains it or not, what's most important to remember is this. You find that perfect combo between what you're selling, who you're selling it to, and through which media you sell it to. And of course, the internet in general is not the only media. It's not the media. The internet has many medias in it. On the internet, you could be doing Facebook ads, you could be doing YouTube organic, you can be doing YouTube ads paid, you can be doing search engine optimization free, you can be doing paid ads, which is kind of search engine optimization, but being, paying for it. And you can choose your medias. So you have to find a perfect message, market, and media. But another thing that Perry Marshall talks about there is called, I think you said, economics. So that is best explained in the words money math. And money math, quite simply, is this. How much money can you afford to spend to get a customer? If you know that number, and you know exactly what you can afford to spend to get one person that's going to be buying from you, that can help you build your entire business. That can pretty much make it predictable, but it also can be the key to scaling. Because if you know your economics, you'll know exactly the number to strive for. You'll be, for example, I'll give an example. So let's say it costs me $50 to make $1,000 sale. This means that I can be spending $50 all day long, again and again and again, because I know I'll be making $1,000 again and again and again. On that, that's the law of averages we're talking about here. But let's say my ability to spend is limited to, I don't know, $20 per sale. If I know that number, I know that immediately all of these medias that require me to spend more than $20 per sale go away. I'm not even going to entertain them. And I'm going to focus on the medias that are going to get me that customer at under the cost. And if I can, I'll be able to build a thriving business. If I can't, maybe I need to revisit how much I'm willing to spend. Maybe I need to revisit my plan, or maybe I need to revisit the product and the industry and the market altogether. So that's what he means by economics. Economics of how much are you willing to pay per click or pay per lead or pay per sale in order to get it. Now, of course, you may say, Lana, what about free traffic? Is there economics about free traffic? And I will answer you. Yes, there are economics about free traffic as well, because at the end of the day, you are spending money on tools. You are spending your time. You're probably hiring other professionals to help you, maybe designers, maybe coders. So you always have to consider all those economics. Getting started, sure, you probably don't count that as economics, but as you grow, you will have to face the reality. So Perry Marshall, the way he built his business was always with Google AdWords. back in the day when Google AdWords was actually affordable. So that's why he talks about economics, because he wants predictable and sustainable and scalable customer acquisition. That's what he's really good at, actually.
I really appreciate you sharing all of this with us, because it really puts it into perspective, especially the 3Ms. I think that for people who the triangle was a little bit intimidating as well for one reason or another, the 3Ms just make it extremely clear and they drive the point home. Because I find that so many people today try to sell this specific product, like for example, like you said, back pain, to people who are not interested in this product, people who don't need that product. And then it's just all of it is wasted effort, unfortunately. And the same happens with the economics part of it, right? So people try to invest in marketing, even though they understand that this specific source is not working for you. So maybe you should focus on something else and so on. So I really appreciate you putting this into perspective. And I think that, Igor, many of us want to know one thing. There's one burning question, and that is, in the beginning of this call, you mentioned that the same works in our industry, right? There is the 20% of the marketers who own the 80% of the income. So how do we join those 20% and not be left out among the rest of the 80%?
Oh, that's a great question. And the answer is not as mysterious as one might think, because if you can identify the 20% that are making 80% of the money, the only question you have to ask yourself is, what are the commonalities between all of them that I can find? So you have to go and funnel hack them, obviously. You have to go and study them. You have to really start examining what they do. Not necessarily listen to what they say, but study what they do. Two different things completely. So when you study what they do and you study them one after another, kind of like if you wanted to compare two books, you would read them one after another, trying to look at them side by side, if you will. So if you find, say, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in your industry that are doing really well, and you know they're doing well because they're running ads all the time, because they are, putting on seminars, because like it's obvious that they're successful, then you must now go and analyze what are they doing. Make a list of everything that they're trying to do or doing on a daily basis or weekly or monthly basis, and then compare your notes between the people that you've studied. And the moment you can circle commonalities that stand out for you, those would be your 80-20. Those would be the action steps to take. One of those action steps can probably be that they have an email list and they email that list very often with different offers. Another thing could be that they have at least one source of paid advertising going on for them. Another thing could be that they all, have a podcast or something. You have to go and look for this stuff. And when you study them close enough, you see. I think that's one of the reasons why it takes a while before anyone succeeds online, because it takes a while for you to start spotting all these commonalities between people. And I also think that's a big mistake that people make that don't succeed. The people who spend years in this industry, 5, 10, we all know these people. We have these people in our coaching programs, right, Lana? You speak to them. 10 years in the game, not making any money. Guess why? Because you've been ignoring what's most common between all these people who are successful, and you haven't been doing what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, life does work with the law of cause and effect. Now, we can always see the effect. We can really identify the right cause under the right circumstance. It takes a lot of effort and research. But those of us who find the cause usually get the same effect. And think in terms of exercise. It's been, people figured it out, right? You eat fewer calories. You burn more calories than you eat. The result is you lose weight. There you go. On the basic level, that's how it works. Whether you use keto, whether you become vegan, whether you just give up food altogether and just live on, sunshines and fresh water. That's mechanics. The principle, though, consume fewer calories, burn more calories, you lose weight.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Igor. It does make sense, and it is hard to accept the fact that you are taking responsibility for where you arrive at the end of the day. But I think it's only through responsibility that we can understand that it all depends on not only the work that we do, but also the right work to choose from, like we were discussing so far. And so I can see that we're running out of time, but any other important concepts that you would like to add?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge marketing concept in that book, amongst other concepts, but this one really stood out for me because of the way Perry Marshall explained it. And I'm not sure if I can do it justice on this call, but it goes something like this. Imagine you walk into a bar and it's packed, and you walk in a trench coat, one of those spy movie trench coats, with a hat too, and glasses. So you walk in, you try not to attract attention, but underneath the trench coat, you've got a shotgun. And so what you do, you stand in the middle of the room, again, trying not to attract attention, and you pull out your shotgun and you rack it like this. That shotgun sound. So in that room, in that bar, you're going to have a bunch of people who simply do not hear you do it. Or even if they do hear you do it, they will not turn around. But out of everyone in the bar, there will be some people who will go like this. They'll be actually looking at you or looking where that sound come from. So this is to say that in marketing, when you are selling something or promoting something is a better way, promoting, trying to get people's attention, especially online right now when its attention is so fragmented. The newsfeed is flooded with old nonsense and news and videos, like so much that the brain simply can't process all of it. Wrecking the shotgun is more important than ever, because if you wreck your shotgun correctly, you're going to get those people going like this. And the shotgun could be the opening statement of your video. It could be the headline. It could be the subject line of your email. It could be the unique selling proposition of your product. It could be a visual aid of some kind that you're trying to use to get attention. So wrecking the shotgun is whatever you say or do to get other people to pay attention to you. And the ones who go like this, those are the ones you go after. That's another way to apply the 80-20 rule, because out of the mass market of people out there, not everyone is your perfect customer. So that's why you have to be really strategic about the way you rack your shotgun to attract the right people.
That's a beautiful point to end on as well. And even though there are a lot of other principles in this book that obviously we won't be able to cover the entire thing, I do appreciate how you were able to take this legendary marketing book and translate it into all of our list building lifestyle world, right? So exactly what we have to do, where we have to go, and what we have to pay attention to. With that said, Igor, I do appreciate all of your time. It was very interesting to hear of your personal thoughts on the book, and I do hope to hear you again next time on our next chapter of the List Building Lifestyle Book Club.